And when you fear the unknown, when you show up to moments, you operate in fear. And if my boy goes into the world, there's a lot of scary things, right? Can I subject him to a knowledge of this feeling, a knowledge of this moment showing up in a different place? Because you might have a fear of like, there's a guy with a gun. There's also the fear of like, my girl might leave me. Different things, but it's fear. And if you operate in the emotion without having some heightened sense of things, your emotion takes a logic over. You do dumb things. So the idea is, can I subject him to things he's scared of that make him uncomfortable, not so that he's afraid of that thing or overcomes that thing, but he overcomes fear.
Welcome to the Path Podcast. I'm Mike Salemi. I believe that uncharted trails make the best life stories. So take a deep breath, put one foot in front of the other, and trust the ground under your feet. Join me in discussions on health, performance, business, leadership, and spiritual self-mastery, because these topics are windows into how well each of us have learned to trust our own path. Let's go. This is a Soulfire production. In today's episode, I bring you my dear friend and mentor, Anthony Trucks. You're going to get to see how truly remarkable of an individual Anthony is and how much he's inspired me over these years that I've known him. One of the things that sticks out most to me from this show is how Anthony breaks down the concept of identity. When we are looking as individuals to create a new identity, to show up in our life as someone better for ourselves, for our families, and for our communities, he explains it is our actions that we need to focus on. Fully embodying those actions of the type of person we are seeking to become is critical if we want to truly step into that change for the long term. Also, I was touched after we stopped recording when Anthony shared with me that a few of the questions we went into, he hadn't been asked before, related to some of where he still struggles or things he's growing into. Anthony is an incredible entrepreneur. He's been an elite athlete. He's won American Ninja Warrior. He's been a gym owner, podcaster, and so much more. One of the things that I've always admired about Anthony is his ability to maintain harmony and balance as a high-level business entrepreneur and an incredible family man. He treats and focuses on his role as a father and as a husband as his primary motivator in this world. And it was so cool to hear his experience and what he's doing, raising two sons, and what he's going to be guiding them through as they transition and continue into the realm of manhood. Let's get into it. So yesterday, we're coming off of 2 amazing days. And, I've been in your mastermind group for almost 2 years in business. Yeah. It's way more than just business development, which is so linked to the personal development. But with that said, one thing that I was thinking about, especially on the drive over here, and I've thought about this so much over the last 2 years, what are the things that really stand out to me about you? And it just comes so much to life. And because we're coming off these 2 days of just, 8-hour days, just full on.
Just all mental.
Just all mental.
Mind jams. Yeah.
One of the first things that stands out is truly, truly how incredibly generous you are. You are hands down one of the most, if not the most generous people I've ever met in my life.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Dude, you give from the heart, you give above and beyond. And one of the things that I've always admired, and the person that introduced us was a mutual friend, Ella.
Yeah.
And one of the things when she first connected to us, she's like, you got to meet Anthony. She told me a little bit about your background. But really, one of the things that me and her have always chopped it up about was the way and the level in which you show up for the people in your life and that you care about, and whether it's your students, the people in your program, us in the mastermind, is a level that I have not experienced.
Oh man, I appreciate that.
It's 100% no exaggeration. And when I was thinking too, it's like, in my experience of you, I've really experienced you to have the freaking opposite of a scarcity mindset.
Yeah, I would probably say it for sure.
You share so openly everything that you're doing in your business. There's no dumb question. You've been, especially with me this last 2 years, through very challenging stuff, family stuff, relationship stuff, and not to mention all the business stuff, And so one of the things that I was thinking about, I was like, man, one thing that's always fascinated me about people is, let's say you took 2 people and they don't necessarily need to, but let's just, for the sake of this, let's say you had 2 people, whether it was siblings or whatever, that grew up in the same environment.
Okay.
And or had, the same parents, obviously, if they're siblings. Something happens in their life, whether it's a trauma, a situation, whatever. And 2 people, even having gone through the same thing, are going to respond completely different
every time. Yeah.
Every time.
Every time.
One may be thriving, and then another one could get totally stuck, right? So what I'd love to do is, I know a little bit about your background, and I'd love for you to share with us just a little bit about the story of your life, especially growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And in relationship to that question, like when I see you, you're incredible with your family, which to me is probably one of the most important things that I admire about
Thank you, man.
and at which the level you operate in the business world, let alone NFL and all published author, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But that being said, it's like, so please share a little bit about your upbringing, and in context of that question, what sticks out to you as something, even if two people have experienced or grown up in the same environment, what is it that sets someone up to thrive and someone not so much?
So I think it's anchoring to what your specific scale is. It's the first part of it, because we all have our own scales, right? It's a scale that we've set. Unfortunately, some people attach that scale to more of like the worldly scale. Because the world of what I do, I got a lot of people that operate at a high level, and I'm around them a lot, but their level of, we'll call it visual, perception is so much higher. They're seen everywhere. They're doing these things, and they got to have their Ferraris and their cars and their nice stuff. And if not, they got to take nice trips, eat nice meals, and it's great. And it's for some people. It's just not for me. And I don't have this FOMO of, oh man, look at my buddy over there. Like I hang out there. Oh, I'm not doing what he's doing, man. Should I do more? Should I crave more? No. Most people go like, they say millionaires don't watch TV. And I'm like, I watch a lot of TV shows, man. I'm like, kids want to watch shows. They take trips all the time. But the thing for me is I long time ago set my own personal scale. I removed myself from the speed of the world that unfortunately, even if you use that scale and you achieve something on that scale, there's a point in time where you step back and you admire it. And the next person comes along and goes, you could have done more. It's like, dang, like, man, there's never a win. It's like, it's very. And so I was like, I don't like that feeling. So because of that, I'm like, well, how can I always be happy with what I did? To where if someone goes, you didn't do that, I can go, yeah, I see what you're saying, but according to my scale, I'm doing great.
When did that start for you? When was that switch that you can at least most accurately identify?
I was probably when my marriage fell apart the first time. There wasn't a second time. Won't be, right? But that's the first time. When it fell apart. And essentially it was like this thing where I was that guy. I was driving hard, trying to create this stuff and be this dude. And then that dude lost everything. So even if I did get the stuff, I'd be playing my toys alone. And so the whole journey that I went through for a few years of like navigating being alone, but then not enjoying who I was, but pacifying and distracting myself, giving oh, I'm good, I'm great, look at me hanging out. When genuinely inside, I'm like, I don't like me, man. And so it was a wake up moment in time where I was like, I gotta make some shifts. All right. So the whole thing is like making shifts. And so at that point, I started analyzing and being really self-critical, not self-deprecating, right? Like I was critical of what I was doing, but not to beat myself up and you're a horrible human, but it was more of like, I didn't like you. So that was a journey of, okay, well, what is the things that are affecting it? Why are you feeling this way? And I started noticing things I was doing, how I was treating the people around me, how they felt I was treating them, even if I didn't think it was a thing, like how they felt I was treating them. And that took me down this pathway of, okay, well, cool. Well, why is that? Because these actions I'm taking are affecting somebody, but the actions aren't to affect them that way. The actions are for me to do something and they're feeling this way. So I'm going towards something that's making this happen. How do I see what I'm going towards and how it's affecting them, right? That's just usually how it is. Most people think when people are, how could you do this to me? Most people don't understand that someone's not actually doing it to you. They're doing it for them. But the kickoff is that it's being experienced by you in that way. And so that's kind of where I noticed, oh, well, people aren't actually doing things to really try to hurt me. They're just doing something that's affecting me. So I'm doing the same thing to other people. So it's okay, well, how do I adjust what I'm going towards to where what I'm going towards is in the direction of where I want to be? And so that was that directional change of I can still run a business, still create contacts of what I do in the world with amazing humans and great relationships. I can still serve at a high level, still speak, but I can also do it while being a good husband and a good father and taking care of myself. Right? All these things are possible. It's just that most people think I'm gonna do this, and then when I have this success, then I can refocus over here. And it's like, well, my kids aren't gonna pause their growth in the middle of me living life. So I got to step back and go, okay, what do I got to adjust? And then I make these adjustments and I go, okay, now we're merged together. I call it harmony, right? It's a life harmony. And that's the beautiful place that I live in now.
So I'm curious like just for context, how old were you around that time when your marriage fell apart? And like, I'd love to get an idea of like, how old were the kids? Cause now like when I see you and you just shared yesterday, like one of your dreams of like setting up in the next 2 years is to literally be not necessarily King Richard, but
like be dad, but super present.
Yeah. And like, you've got so many skills. I mean, as a coach, gym owner, I mean, former NFL guy, like
Yeah.
So, and your kids are athletes, your wife's an athlete.
Yeah, they're all listening right now. Kids are listening right now. Yeah.
And I think that's super, super cool that one, you have that clarity.
Mhm.
So for context, because, I really do believe that life is a series of initiations.
Yeah.
Some of those are conscious, some of those that we go out and seek,
Mhm.
and we need to today, because in my experience, we've completely lost what ritual initiation is, especially
Oh,
like
100%.
transitioning from boys to men.
Oh, I got a conversation about that.
I want to ask you about that too, So what was, and some of those we choose, and some of those they
Happen.
choose us. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? So how old were you when that shift? Because it's so prevalent in how I experience you now. So I think it'd be super, super important.
Yeah. Right. I mean, it's interesting. I think it was it's like what the shift was that made me focus on the family in the way it is in me now.
Yeah. How old were you? And like, cause you're 40 or
Yeah,
under
no,
40?
38.
30. Oh, dude.
I'm 40 next year, though. I'm 39 this year.
Oh, dude.
I'm getting old, dog. The gray hairs are creeping into
No,
my
you look
body.
good, man. You look fit. And when
I try.
you were quite a bit heavier when I first met you.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Then you went, now you're lean, mean. Like
I do my thing, dog.
you're almost back to your Oregon
They
weight.
still make fun of me, man. It's crazy.
What do they call you?
Fat. It's crazy. Think about it. I'm the most out of shape in my family, probably.
No way.
I am genuinely so my oldest son, he's doing track. He's going to go to Oregon. My daughter, she just finished her track season 3 days ago, Junior Olympics. My youngest son did the 800 and he's doing football now. My wife runs track, works out 5 days a week religiously, right? But she's also doing track and competitive in college. Long story, but she's competing in college with her master's already, right?
Jesus.
So the whole dynamic is like, I'm the one they make fun of all the time. They're like, oh, Dad's fat. You gonna work out today, Dad? I'm like, hell yeah, I'm gonna work out. But they just play the game. I guess you had to choose someone, but I can handle it. I got thick skin because I still tell them, hey guys, let's just make sure we don't forget to look at the walls because I'm the most accomplished athlete in this household still. Let them know. I let them know.
Just show them the rings over there.
I do.
It's like,
I seriously do. I said, until one of you guys outpaces me, just saying, you got no room to talk. So you can be all that stuff you want. But no, that was probably about 35, because we got back together almost 6 years ago now. So if I'm 30, gonna be 39, it's probably 34, 35. Because I think it was this moment in time. It's interesting, whenever you like get your trust done by someone, usually the individual setting up as a lawyer, and the lawyer recommends a certain age at which your children can take over the trust from somebody else who's running it for you. And they recommend 35. And I go, yeah, that makes sense. And I go, well, he goes, why do you think 35? And I go, well, I don't know. Why do you think it? He gives me the answer. Because I was like, because you're older? He goes, no. When you're a kid, and you do your thing, when you're 20, in your 20s, you're figuring things out. You're taking risks, doing some things, get your first job, have your first love, you figure that stuff out. And then you go through life a little bit. You have the breakup, you lose the job, you lose the business, you fail a little bit. But by the age of 35, though, he's like, you've pretty much run like 95% of the gamut of crazy. And so you understand why the trust is set up how it is in the first place. You understand how dynamics of interactions work with humans. You don't, wide-eyed and, bushy-tailed anymore. He says, so at that age, you're a little more wise from the experiences you've had. So I think at that age, that kind of sets in for a lot of us, like that window is like, I've run a lot of life and I've done a lot of things. And you get back and you go, okay, I did that, did that, did that. Now you start figuring out, who do I want to be long-term? I've sampled stuff. I've done this stuff. That's not for me. That's for me. Start developing this personality, this identity. You start figuring out what you want your life to look like, who you want it to be with that also sees things the same way, And at that point it rolls. So I think around that window, I was like, all right, I know what I want to experience in my life long term. And it meant us getting back together, not on purpose, but accidentally. But we share values, my wife and I. We share principles. We share work ethic. We share a lot of just memories and stuff, right? There's that. We also share children, So these dynamics all come together to create this really beautiful space where I am more free and at peace because I have an anchored relationship. Most people go, I'm confined. You're going to be, no, man. When you have that box checked, we'll call it, and you take care of the box, everything's smooth. I can be here with you and be present and not stressed off. My wife's been mad and being, bothered and everything. If anything, she's like, clean the toilet so he doesn't see pee stains. And it's just how it's how life works now. It's not those crazy arguments.
That's something, and very well, like I just got engaged,
Yeah.
And Lauren and I there's so many things that are happening in our life that are really exciting. And for me, like my last major relationship before Lauren was 8 years prior. So much, not so much of it, but a big part of it was because I had this mindset, especially when I was competing and doing all these things,
that a part of me thought that being in a committed relationship, which is really the only type of relationship that I was interested in, would have been something that kind of held me back. Like what is it, the ball and chain?
Yeah, they say that. I don't say that.
Dude, it's not. It's really, I totally resonate with what you're saying. If you find someone with similar core values and a similar approach to life, and the communication is put towards the very top of really the values in the relationship, man, it's been so freeing.
Yeah.
Like you've shared. So I totally resonate with
Whole
that.
different feel. Yeah, that's what life should be like, man. It should be like they say, best friend. What can you do with your best friend? You can just sit around and do nothing all day. I could be in the same room with her for hours and say no words. It's cool. Like I think there's something to that people don't think about. And I think when you can lean into those moments and pay attention to them, it makes life more peaceful, more enjoyable. And then I can genuinely focus on my passions, knowing that I have, the relationship in check, and I have someone to share that stuff with and to engage with and have fun and all the nuances. But if not, this is where I say 35, I sampled this. I was single for a while. In that single realm, what you're doing is you're running amok, multiple partners, which isn't my thing. I'm not a fan of it, but I was like, well, what do you do? Let's just try to, not like at the same time, by the way. But it was this thing where I was like living this life. And I realized like, I don't like that. I'm not built like that. I don't want my kids to be like that. I don't want my boys to think that's how you do it. And so
you're modeling it,
and so it was a thing where it's like, nah, that's not who I am. And so you start to figure things out and navigate the journey. And then when you find someone and it locks in, it's a whole different experience genuinely of life.
You were saying 35 is where you were hearing and where you resonate with where that level of next level wisdom comes from. And one of the things that I've always been super interested in is how tribal societies, or looking at us 100 years ago, 200 years ago, just the developmental process of people, especially of men, right?
Yeah.
So I would imagine that wisdom today, if we were to look back 200 years, probably came a little bit earlier or a lot earlier due to, I just really think of more time with fathers or with our parents. If we're looking before the Industrial Revolution, before fathers were pulled out of the home into the factories, they spent more time. There is something that happens just through osmosis when you are with your son.
I agree.
For example. So I'm curious, because we were talking about this the other day, and I think this is what also you were about to go into earlier, is you've got a son, for example, and in your opinion, like what sticks out to you in terms of how you parent, how you want to parent to really help him prepare for manhood? What are the things that you feel he needs to either go through or learn or whatever in terms of to really step into and earn his way into manhood?
And be a dude, to be a guy that I feel confident, going in the world without me. Because I 2 days ago had a conversation with him. I was like, you're about to go into my world.
Wow.
Like you've been in your world with me. But,
oh, damn.
Like I step out into the world. I hit the airports. I travel. I meet people. I interact with people on the streets, right? That's the world that you're now stepping into without the, the comfort and safety blanket of dad. And there is a dynamic. Interesting thing is there's a difference between my oldest son and my youngest son. The different personalities, 100%, but there's a way that I show up and parent. My youngest son, he has a different dad now because of what I was still living in life. Because my youngest son I had at 20 years old, or oldest I had at 20 years old. So when he comes into the picture, he's in a situation where he's got a kid raising him. You think about it, he's got a child in a weird way, like I'm a kid raising a 20 years old. And so what I'm learning with him is that there's a lot of stuff that I wish I would have done for him, been in place for him. I was navigating all these years I told you about with him growing up. I was always present, but not the exact same level I am now, right?
Emotionally present.
Emotionally present, mentally present, lessons. It was, at the time was more like this guy's, don't get me wrong, I love the guy, but it's more like he's a burden. I gotta work on this. Go over there. Watch the TV. Stop. I gotta create this thing. I gotta film this video. Can you go in the room for a little bit? Give me an hour and then we'll go outside and play golf, But that wasn't parenting. That was pacifying. That was babysitting. It wasn't parenting. And so when we had this adjustment, that I would say that we had a good relationship, but it's been great the last, 5-6 years because he's really had a present father in the years that matter. My youngest son now has a father who I'm aware, like my oldest son, he's not a brawler. He's a lover, not a fighter. And that's okay, man. He didn't grow up in the world I grew up in. So I'm like, it's cool. It works out. And he runs track because of this, right? It's his thing. He loves track. He gets down, he works hard, but 100% things go crazy, bro. Zombie apocalypse, like he might get eaten. Like I'm being honest, like you better come home because I'll take care of you.
Man.
Now with my youngest son, I see the same things. Now with the oldest son I saw it before, but didn't do much. The youngest son, his life is vastly different.
Wow.
Like just, Last night, he slept on a 1-inch foam mattress on the ground with no blanket, no fan, no pillow on purpose. It sounds bad. It sounds like crazy, right? Well, I didn't physically accost my son. I don't beat him. He has some things he has to deal with. And for him, his understanding is not wrapped around what difficulty is. Everything's given to him. My oldest son had everything given to him. He happens to be a little more astute. He's mentally polished. He gets it, right? I can have real conversations. He'll get it. My youngest son, in one ear, out the other. The only thing that he gets is physical discomfort. So it's like I have to actually submit him to a physical discomfort, which is remove things from his life. He has so much. I'm not going to give him more. I just need to remove things so he appreciates what he has and understands that next thing I need you to do, this will be your long-term experience of life if you don't make this short-term thing. You can choose short-term discomfort or difficulty or long-term difficulty. So I told him last night, he does football practice. He needed to do something specific. I said, you just got to do it for 2 hours. Just 2 hours. It ended up being 3 plays. I said, if you can do it for the 3 plays, he didn't do it. I said, you had a choice. You can do this really short-term difficult thing or have the next 24 hours be uncomfortable. And he thought I was bluffing.
Wow.
And so he's in the middle of his 24 hours of discomfort and difficulty. And it's this thing that weighs on him. And
how was that for you as a father?
It's hard, man. But you know what is interesting? It's not that hard for me because I understand what it's going to do for him. Because I look back to my years and I developed as a solid human. But it's because of great men. And every great man that impacted me, I hated in real time. Every time. I hated what he was doing, making me do, wow, I don't want to do this. You know, angry and you hate the guy. But then in hindsight, I go, oh, damn, like I can do this now because of what he did then. I appreciate him. I respect him more. I can tell where he have been a father now. I know how much energy it takes to do that. And I go, that dude really gave all that energy to me. He'd be much easier to sit back and say nothing to me.
Wow.
But he leaned in. So those little moments, they actually in the long term, they play a different kind of role for me. And I appreciate that more. It's more important.
So tell me about the Gogi, because this fits in exactly into, what I was asking you earlier about, what do you feel like specifically your oldest son needs to go through as he's about to go to college? So what is the Agogi and how does that fit in?
Well, the oldest son won't do it, unfortunately. I wish he could, man, because I could. If I planned it off right and did everything, we could make him do the final challenge. But the Agogi is a thing back in the day, like the Spartan days. And I went and looked it up. The very first probably 5 minutes of the movie 300 talks about it. And it's a beautiful intro. Like you may even like put it as a link, people can watch it. But it talks through like, the man, like the boy, he was cold and he could feel the breath in his, his lungs. And this whole thing about how from the age of 7, he was taken from his mom. And was he stripped from his mom or whatever, taken from his mom and thrust into this world of the Agogi, which means to raise. And what it does is it hardens him. Now, this is a different level. They're making him like steal, rob, kill, to be able to survive. But it's creating these warriors. And he goes and then he comes back, thought he was dead, and he returns a king, Leonidas, this whole thing. And it's like, that's what men do, is they go out and they do things that are really hard and they come back and they have this chip. Now he's a different level. He's fight wolves in the woods, like a whole different monster. But the thing is for our boys, I don't think that we're in our society subjecting enough kids to discomfort and difficulty and things that test them. Because it's not that it tests them, it builds them. There's this fear. And there's a reason I showed my wife that clip of he was taken from his mom. Because I think a lot of it is when there's mom and dad in the household, it's great. But sometimes like my biggest battle is my wife doing things, her going, why are you being so mean? I go, I'm not being mean. This was the rule. He broke the rule. He knew the consequence. I'm just upholding the consequence. Like that's the situation. And he goes to the real world, it'll be the exact same thing.
That's integrity. It's
integrity, right? And it's a matter of because if not, then who's he going to be afraid of in the world? If he doesn't learn this lesson in his own home, not going to be afraid of anybody. And also, a lot of the things that move him into that realm that I'm trying to have him do, they're not just random to make him have a bad day. It's stuff like communication skills, things like doing hard things. If you do something, you work your hardest at it. I don't need you to win. I don't need you to be the best at it. I need you to give your best effort. That's literally it. In our household, I think it's interesting, people like my best friend go, I was worried about winning and stuff. I'm like, never. I said, ask my kids, have I ever told them to win? None of them. They'll all be like, no, I've never told you to win. What have I told you to do? To work hard. That's it. Because if you can work hard, it's not just working hard when it feels good. It's working hard when it doesn't, working hard in the difficulty, working hard when you're tired. It's just, can you give your all? And I've got to stretch them. And so when I say me, and it's like, I'll get into that moment and I'll nudge him and she'll go, she'll feel the empathetic pain of what he's experiencing. and want to stop him. And so I find myself in current moments dealing with her coming to me going, God, I can't stand when he does this. Or like, why is he out in the field looking like he's soft? Like he's been here 3 years. He looks like a new football player. He shouldn't be. And I go, well, let's have some conversations. Like, because here's the thing. I say, in this moment, you're noticing the outcome of the way that you've parented or you've forced me to parent with you. We're seeing the outcome. And while you want to complain about it, you need to also be able to take the feedback of why we're here, because his inability to push past that discomfort or be a little more physical, or what you want him to do is because you wouldn't let me do it when I wanted to. You would save him. You coddled him. You made it easy for him. And the things I was making him do weren't dangerous. It wasn't a danger to him. It was, hey, don't cut corners when you clean the poop up. Hey, you keep on leaving this thing out. What's the consequence for leaving it out? This? Okay, cool. You leave it out again. That's the consequence. Then leaves it out. I hold the consequence. Come on, we're all going to eat ice cream. Just we'll deal with it later. He doesn't get ice cream. Why you got to be mean? Not being mean. That's the rule, right? So these little moments here, she doesn't realize that it's now showing up in this test. He's failing the test because of the fact that he was not put to the test or to the lessons later on or earlier on. So now this will be lived into. So that whole agoge concept, I'm creating something. Next week, we have a meeting with a few guys. I call it Council of Dads. Genuinely, I'm dead serious. I call it the Council of Dads.
Yes.
I was like, what do we want to do if my boy turns 13 and your boys turn 13, they're now teens, right? They're above that age. What can we do to where at 18, they can take like an exit test and a agoge test and be prepared for it? But obviously over the years, we're building into it. What can we create for them? And I'm not a business focus, like genuine just serve these kids. So think of it like Boy Scouts, but like a modern level of what I would call it. So I may or may not have them tie knots, right? I may or may not have them build a dog house, but for sure going to have like communication skills, go door to door and sell something like the Girl Scouts do. There's a use to that, right? Find out how to have, hard conversations, like to express themselves. How do I work that in? I don't quite know yet. Physical challenge, like I need to think of things before they happen and put them into those moments intentionally, because our world doesn't do it nowadays. Everyone gets a participation trophy. Half the coaches they have are scared of getting in trouble for being too hard. Like there's this dynamic that's robbing boys of being men. And so the men have to create men, because at a certain point, you're no longer raising a boy. You have to raise a man. And if not, then when that man goes into the world, you're still going to be parenting a boy. And we get a problem there.
And that's so important. And one thing that I've really realized from doing the men's work that I'm doing is like, there is something so unique and so special when men are in and around men. Mm-hmm. Nothing against our women, right? Like no. It's just, and one thing that I heard you say earlier too, and what I got from it is like 2 words: build and protect.
Yeah.
Your wife and you are, through your own life experience and through your perspective and being a man and her being a woman, her being mom, you being dad, what you're really trying to do is protect and build. But 100%. How that shows up is from 2 completely different perspectives.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. But with men being around men, I think that's so important, because like you said, men build other men, and those tests that you're trying to have them go through is very holistic. Yeah. Like it's not one of the things. And again, there's no one way to any of this stuff. And I think that's the beauty of it. Yeah. That's life, right?
It's building a toolbox.
You're building a toolbox. And with that, like, what I love about what you shared, is that it is very holistic, as opposed to just being a brutal physical challenge, like a Navy SEAL thing. That could support, just like what you said with your son. You put him on the ground, no blanket, put him through some physical discomfort, and someone will either will fall or will rise, right? But you're also having him dial in the communication skills. And especially for men today, that is by and large getting men to tune into what they are feeling and learn to express that and get reps into that is so important. So I love that you've included in that. What are some of the other ideas that are coming up for you that are
I don't have a full-fledged thing. So my trip we're about to take tomorrow morning, that's one of my things, is to sit down, delete pictures on my phone, because I got too many, but also like think, because we're all going to meet and throw ideas out. And so like I got to think through ideas. I have a list actually, but I could try to see if my phone will let me access before it gets all wonky, but it's called the agoge. In here. Yeah, the agoge list.
I still remember, like, as you were given that whatever it's called, the monologue or whatever, I was envisioning his voice. That's the guy that has the bandage on his eye after. Yeah, dude. It's just
I thought it was deeper in the movie, but it starts that way.
Yeah.
Which I thought was beautiful. It started that way of anchoring you to like, this is how these men are built. This is what they go through. Like the imagery, it's epic, it's dark. You feel like it's the dad. It's seriously, there's a shot where the dad's, doing swordplay, and then he backhands the boy. And he gets blood comes out of his mouth, and he goes back, and the kid doesn't get mad. He just sits there and centers on him. And then the dad, approaches and the kid rolls around, gets the knife, the blade, and he's back at it. Like he's taught never to surrender, never to give, never back down, never surrender. And it's this part of it. It's like, oh, and then at one point it says later on, like the wolf's there. And it's the night. He says, it's not fear that grips him, just a heightened sense of things. I was like, oh,
yeah,
because like there's a different sense of, so it's like, I need my kid, but here's why that he had that, not a fear. You fear the unknown. And when you fear the unknown, when you show up to moments, you operate in fear. And if my boy goes into the world, there's a lot of scary things, right? So it's just, can I subject him to a knowledge of this feeling, a knowledge of this moment showing up in a different place? Because you might have a fear of like, there's a guy with a gun. There's a fear. There's also the fear of like, my girl might leave me. Different things, but it's fear. And if you operate in the emotion without having some heightened sense of things, your emotion takes the logic over. You do dumb things. So the idea is, can I subject him to things he's scared of that make him uncomfortable, not so that he's afraid of that thing or overcomes that thing, but he overcomes fear, period. And then it's a different sense. And so that's what I take from those aspects, like these things that I have as a list here, like build with your hands, start a small business, sell door to door, marketing skills, ask somebody out on a date, change a tire, jump a car, yes, right? Build a doghouse, fire a weapon, Spartan race, increase your strength, wood whittling, door to door car wash, mailing something. Think about that. Who taught kids nobody teaches anybody to mail a letter. It's like these little things. I want him to do it because those are things it's like, we're going to teach you to figure it out. And he'll be afraid of it because it's new, it's unknown. But if I can make it more known, two things. One, he gets more awareness of fear. And then also he learns to fire the brain on to go, I can figure this out. Because for my life, I can't sit here and say I'm never afraid of things. I have courage for things, but I can tell you my brain, when things get difficult, doesn't go, throw my hands up. I go like, ooh, a puzzle. Let me figure this new puzzle out. I know how to solve puzzles. I've been solving puzzles all my life. I can figure this out. So it's a whole different trajectory of how my brain fires off into something where I will dive in and I'm not afraid of the journey of the mind and the effort and the trial and error to figure that out. Because I also know when I get it done, new tool for the toolbox, but I got a chip. I got a little bit more pride. And that pride shows up in positive ways for the world. So I can be very giving without this, sense of like, I have an abundant mindset because of the ability of my mind to go, you can create abundance because you got so many skills. So I can be giving. I can do things because it doesn't come back to me negatively. I understand that if somebody does burn me, something does go wrong. Hey, it's happened to me before. Like I can handle this and I'll keep on going. It's like a bird. They say a bird's not afraid of the wire and falling. It doesn't trust the wire. It trusts its wings. And so for me, I just trust my wings. And it flows a whole different way into the world. So I'm trying to get my boys to have that.
You've developed a tremendous amount of inner resource and viewing these things as an opportunity as opposed to a paralyzing force. Can I ask you what comes up for you? Like what are you afraid of right now? Or where is there room to grow for you?
Oh man, I'm afraid of things being too good and losing them. Genuinely. So I don't usually talk about this stuff. I never talk to my wife about it, but there's always this fear of death. Like not from me dying, but like random deaths, Because
random deaths in the family or
for me. Like me leaving the house and having some random thing happen, right? I don't speak it into existence and I'm not walking around worried.
Sure.
But it's that part of like, man, I enjoy my life so much. Two things. One, I don't want to miss out on what's coming. I don't want to pass away. I don't want to leave my kids without the base they need to grow to be great human beings and adults. But then I also have a fear of like, things are so good. Like it would suck to lose them. There's that fear of getting more because I would have more to lose. And as much as I talk about it, I don't live into it. I'm presently aware of it. I have a conversation with it and I press on, but it does show up. So my fear is like, oh, this is real. Everything's going great. Like, oh man, do you really want to go that route? Because what if it happens and you lose it or this contract doesn't go through or like you'll be happy and you'll feel down. And so I go, yeah, okay. Doesn't matter. We're still going to go, So I lean in. But I think there is that thing that people have is like to have more because you'll have more to lose. It's like climbing a tree. The higher you go and you fall, it hurts more the higher you're up, So that's the thing is I don't want to be afraid to climb the tree, but that does become an actual fear.
Has that been a fear your whole life? Or is that just more as you've been developing?
Yeah, I think because as a kid, it wasn't in the cards for me. Growing up as a foster kid, you're not supposed to have those things. So it wasn't a fear of success. No, it was, I think my fear growing up was more so a genuine fear of like, I'm not worth anything. So when your own mom gives you away and the people you're with don't do, good things for you, there's this fear of like, man, maybe I have nothing of value to this world. Like, that would suck. Why am I here then? And there's those conversations. I think a lot of my early on drive to be who I am now was simply creating value so I belonged or had a place here, And And I couldn't do very much. When you're a kid, there's only so many things you can actually do and aspire to because you're a stinking kid, And I think that was kind of the earlier on things, but I was able to face those by doing things that created value for me as a human. Even to this day, man, I'm consistently learning, engaging, trying, testing, because I want to make sure I'm of value to the people I'm around, whether it's you in the mastermind, whether it's, for my parenting, because I'll never make him a better man than me if I don't make me a better man.
Wow. Absolutely.
So it's like, because I don't look at it as now as my age. It's like, if I stopped growing at 35 and I didn't do anything, well, I can't parent him past who Anthony was at 35. But if I can keep growing, well, when I get to 40, I can make him who I was at 35 at 25 because I'm still growing and I'm learning who I was that moment. There's no stagnation. So it's, again, if I want to make him a better man, I got to be a better man. And it's a daily climb. I need him to not step back and go, I got this problem. I can't call my dad. Like, I need him to go, like, I know it. I don't know anything for sure, but I know my dad doesn't have an answer. Like, and I need that to be something that he can always lean on until I'm not here anymore. Because I also look at lineage. Like, I want my grandkids to have that. And if he doesn't have a viewpoint of that or a perspective of that, he won't know to seek that. Like, I just bought him, I'm reading right now, Deep Work, because I'm doing some research for my book. But I was like, great book for him. I bought him the book. He's reading it. My dad never thought of reading. I don't think he's read a book probably this day, like, love him, but it's not who he is. But that's my thing, is like, when I find some I know will help him, I don't throw a bunch of books at him, but ones that can matter, he knows the way I've given him books that'll help him. So he actually dives in and reads them. He's at a different level. And that's something that I can genuinely say is he's a better man than I was.
Wow. Setting the tone, modeling it. That's your legacy. That is your legacy.
That is. It's not the pages or PDFs or worksheets or videos. That's it.
That's it. And I think your clarity around that is one of your biggest strengths. Because I think as men, one of the things that, like, the masculine is the directive, is the clarity, is that side of things, right? And so if a guy or whatever it is, a man is just unclear of their purpose, why they're doing what they're doing, all that, it can be a dispersion of energy in so many directions. And one of the things that I observe, feel, and have seen you do so many times just over the last 2 years is like your ability to be an incredibly, incredibly high performer in business and also balance that with the family is like I do feel like I have a pretty high work capacity. And like, I would honestly say you trump me. Like, it's incredible. And your ability to balance that. And I think that's one of the most admirable qualities about you for me, because like for me, and this stems to what you said earlier, like there are incredible business coaches out there, right? And I'm very clear at the ones I would not want to take advice from, or not want to maybe take advice from in certain areas, but not want to have their life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that clarity for me. And so that's one reason why I love working with you and learning from you, is because we share similar core values. And as I become a father, that is exactly the type of father that I want to be, because I know that is my legacy. Oh man.
100%, man.
I absolutely love it.
This episode is brought to you by Men of Movement, my in-person retreat offering for men of all walks of life. In this retreat experience, we dive deep into many healing modalities of movement, from music to breath work, outdoor workouts, embracing the elements, and even embodied rhythm techniques guided by Yakov Darling Khan. Many men today are longing to have experiences and honest conversations that fortify who they want to be and how they seek to show up in the world. In my experience, with that comes working through the intentional application of discomfort so we can become better versions of ourselves together. The next Men of Movement retreat takes place in Mount Shasta, California, October 27th through the 30th. It offers an opportunity for men to come together in a safe container to heal and grow in community. There are still a few spots available. If you or anyone you know would be interested in a unique experience like this, go to www.mikesalemi.io and click the Choose Your Path button to find out more and hop on a call with me. Now back to today's podcast.
You know, you're so big on identity work, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things, like, you do a lot of business coaching, you do a lot of personal growth coaching. Let's just start with, like, how do you define identity? Because I got a few things I'm super curious to ask you on that.
So a lot of research went into this kind of statement, but it psychologically and neurologically makes sense. And before I say it, I'll tell you this. In the brain, you have a part of your brain called the default mode network, the DMN, and your identity exists in here. If I asked you who you are, that part would actually shut down and you'd start thinking about all these conscious things: my car, my house, my wife, my kid, my job. You go there. However, when you sit there, stare off into the distance, and you just like embrace nature, what's going on, and your brain can just bring it in, it lights up.
Mm.
And what it is, it's like, that's who you are. Who you are as you filter this, how you see, how you observe. Are you optimistic, pessimistic, negative, happy? Are you joyful? Whatever it is, are you down? Like, that part's processing in real time. When I see that person, do I hate them because I'm racist? Do I love them because it doesn't matter, right? There's this, but that's your identity. So at a neurological level and a psychological level, you are who you are when you're not thinking about who you are. Just being. Right. So if I'm just sitting here hanging out, talking, this is Anthony, right? And there's the same. And now that can also be in different ways. I can be different here as I'm with you, that I'm with my kids, or with my wife, or on a stage, right? There are different expressions of the identity, but I'm not processing who I am in real time, telling you these things based on who. It's just, this is me talking, and then I may go, oh yeah, I don't know, I just flew out of my mouth. It was just me. And so identity is this passively active part of us that was programmed from like teachers, preachers, coaches, leaders, situations, environments, these things that created this sense of how we see ourselves to be. And we just show up as that. And that is not typically in real time conscious at a neurological or psychological level.
And so with someone who's trying to create a new identity for themselves, like I see this super common now. It's like there's people, myself included, and this has been a journey for me, maybe have achieved a high level of achievement in one area of their life, or they're a high performer in one, let's just say business, right? But as a result of being a high performer and building that identity as a high level executive, leading teams, whatever it is, in another area of their life, maybe it's their health or how they show up for their family, they're really lacking in that area. So for someone who maybe is trying to either create a new identity or maybe have two simultaneous ones, where does someone start and what comes up for you as like key in that?
Well, if you think about how any identity was built or created, like you just said, I'm a high achiever, high accomplishment. You put actions in over time. You invest it. And we as investment biased humans, when I give an investment, I run a return. When I invest in building a business, taking care of my body, my return is confidence, pride, an identity of going, that's who I am. If somebody say I built this, amazing business, right, and doing my thing, and someone goes, oh, you don't know anything about business. Wait, hold on, what? No, like whatever you'll protect if somebody challenges, that's a sense of how you identify. Now, the interesting thing is, if I was to go and say, I want to be an astrological scientist professor, I don't know anything about that. I have no identity there. But if I wanted to go do that, well, what would I do? Well, at first I would, I don't know. That's not who I am. I would question it. I would say, that's not who I am. Literally say those words. But I, at one point, could go back before I am who I am now and go, but it's not who I am. But I did something to get here. And all it was a set of actions and habits. That's it. Now, a lot of us, we are so accustomed to the confidence from our current identity because we've done that work, that when we're stripped of it, it makes us feel naked. Like when I couldn't play football anymore, lost my career, I felt naked. I didn't know who I was. And we're all looking to have that feeling immediately. So if I say, this is who I am now, but I'm going to do this, we go over here and I'm immediately like, this feels uncomfortable. It's like saying I took all this time to plant this tree, prune it, build it, nurture it. It's this amazing oak. And I go across the street to a new thing and I throw a seed in and go, where's my tree? You want that same base confidence, right? But you had to do the exact same things you did. That's all it is. You just have to go over there. And here's the thing, you have to be okay with going over here and looking stupid while you do it, right? I recently saw yesterday a video by, it was no, it wasn't Chris. No, I know it was. It was Will Smith and Dave Chappelle talking about Chris Rock. And it was a conversation about how Will Smith wants to do stand-up. And he says, there's this thing, I have to be great at this.
Yeah.
I'm so great at all these things that I can't do this and not be great.
That's a lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure,
That's
right?
A lot of pressure.
And it's he's not giving himself, in my opinion, the grace to let people be aware that this is just a new identity he's trying to build, or a new expression of his identity. And give yourself the same grace you did when you were acting, when you were rapping, all these different areas. He's already done that and he built up, but now he's at such a high level, he wants to go throw a seed in the ground and say, give me a tree. And so when we want to create this new sense of self or whatever it is, it's really about saying, I gotta identify with the actions, not the outcome. I gotta identify with the person who's gonna go and prune the branches and water this thing, as opposed to identifying as that tree just yet. But once the tree is built, I can stand back and go, yeah, this is who I am now.
Wow, that's powerful. Now you've got basically, I want to talk a little bit about how does that fit in? Now you've developed an incredible method called the shift method.
Mhm.
So how does that come in and how do you utilize that in a lot of your coaching?
Well, it's all my coaching. It's the different extensions, right? So there's this 3 stages: see, shift, sustain. The C stage is unpacking, seeing the same things I've done for life that we've talked about. I got to see. And once you actually see things that are typically things you don't want to see, it'll inform or should inform the next actions you take, which is the shift phase. Shift is a verb, right? I shift perspectives. I have to shift some of my values and principles sometimes, shift my actual schedule. I shift things. And that's uncomfortable for people. It feels like a fish out of water. You're going to do things that are completely out of your norm. And it should feel like that. But that's the only path to getting there. And so people are afraid of the imposter syndrome, whatever it is. So we create this journey that is on paper of what you're supposed to start doing. And then you're supposed to do it.
That's the key part.
It sounds simple, but everything's simple till you do it. It's simple, but not easy is the best way to say it. Like I can walk into a process to say, who do I want to be? And there's a whole bunch of steps to get through it. And then we have this clear picture of the ideal identity I want to embody and feel like it's who I am. And there's a set of actions and habits to get there. But the third part, sustain. And that's the part that most people, they want to bypass quick.
That's the gold part.
That's
Because
it.
if you can't sustain it, if you can't integrate it into your life, then it's not going to be a part of your legacy. First and foremost, it's not going to stick with you. So,
No, and you won't even get it because if you don't sustain, it's not just sustain the action; it's sustain the effort towards the actions. Because a lot of people will try something in that shift phase and they stumble and it hurts and they quit. Or make an excuse and procrastinate and eventually quit. Like they didn't realize they quit. They quit now, but they didn't actually admit it for 2 months because they just did other stuff. But that's what ends up happening. And so if you don't sustain it and go through the journey of trial and error to build, to get that confidence, you'll never receive that thing you want. So you can want all you want, but you'll never have the thing you want because you didn't become the person who has it. So I tell people all the time, you can't have a dream that is above your current identity.
You can't have a dream.
We'll say you can't achieve a dream above your current identity because either you won't sustain it or you won't attain it.
Okay.
So if I happen to luck out and get this thing, but I'm not of the identity, I will not sustain it. Think about people that win the lottery all the time. They win the lottery, and what do? Go broke.
Yeah.
Why'd they go broke? Well, because every day they looked at their bank account and they didn't identify with a person with $100 million. They felt guilty. They felt awkward. They felt weird. And so somehow, in a weird psychological way, that money was flying out of the account and they're buying dumb stuff. And then all of a sudden, they're back to where they were before. And I don't know very many wealthy people buying lottery tickets, being honest. I don't know any. And the idea is it's usually people that aren't identifying as whatever they need to do to make that money in the first place. So when they get it, it's gone. That's why people that have 100 million who earned it, they will fight and steal and everything to keep that damn money because they know what it took to get that. So they identify with it. I protect it. And so if your identity doesn't reach that, you'll lose it, right? And also you typically won't attain it. Short of the lottery, if you don't identify with the person that gets up early to take care of your body and eats the right food and works out, you're not going to attain a great body.
Right.
You can't just all of a sudden stumble into greatness, right?
No.
It doesn't work that way. So you have to identify with that because the actions must be taken over a long period of time and sustained for a while, even beyond, what you've accomplished to have that be grabbed and brought into your life and then also kept. Because say, for example, we take the same fitness mentality. Say I do a couple of things, I identify with a guy a little bit that's working out. So I get in shape, I lose 20 pounds, whatever. Well, there's one person I'll do that and go, it's who I am now. And one person who goes, oh, the diet's done. He doesn't identify with the guy that's in shape. He identifies the guy who's on a diet. So now the diet's done, he's back to who he was. Whereas the person that gets in shape says, I'm a person that's in shape. You identify differently. Therefore, the actions continue on because you don't want to go to sleep out of alignment. We as humans hate being out of alignment more than we even realize. If I say this thing or who I am, I will live my life in a way to make that statement right so I can be in alignment. Even if it's bad, even if I say I'm stupid or I'm dumb, I'll do things to make that right. And so what happens for all of us is we have to sustain the actions to get there and then get there and sustain that over time to become that, to where the beautiful thing is like a rocket ship. They say all the power's burned and the fuel's in the first, takeoff, and then it's like 10% the rest of the way. Same thing for identity work. It is really hard in the beginning. It takes a ton of energy. But eventually when it becomes who you are, that thing that was hard to do now becomes hard not to do. Because I don't want to go to bed and be the guy that's like, you're a kettlebell guy. You got to get surge people now. You got the damn Bulgarian bags, right? All this work to get there.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how you'd feel if you woke up one day fat and out of shape?
Yeah.
It'd be like, you'd feel gross. You'd feel like not you.
Yeah.
And so what do? We future pace that moment and go, I'm not going to be that guy. So the moment I do this thing, and the crazy thing after a while, where it was hard maybe years ago, it's easy now. It's what I call effortless effort after a while.
You've said and I've used this word, so I'm continually trying to be more mindful of my language, right? Because just like you said, like language is powerful.
Yeah.
We will live into almost everything that we say, right?
Mm-hmm.
So especially if it's negative and self-defeating. So I remember I was using the words pretty often, like I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed. Like I got so much stuff going on. I'm trying to build a business. I'm trying to, be present with Lauren. I'm trying to cook more. I'm trying to do all these things and be fit, all this stuff, right? And you had said something, or you use a different word.
I do.
And I want you to.
Yeah. I use, I don't like being overwhelmed. I'm maximized.
Max. Okay.
Yeah. Or I'm fully optimized at a moment for what I can do. I don't think optimize is usually when I usually use maximize, because to say I'm overwhelmed, it's a finite. I can't do anymore. I'm over the ability to do anything. If I own that, then that means that everything that I have right now, I can't handle. And if I'm overwhelmed, this is my peak, I'll never be able to have more. Because to have more, I have to be able to do this stuff. And I look at other people and I go, man, these people have what I have. They're operating at a tick I have. And they got even more than I do and do even more, but they have less stress.
Yeah.
I go, how in the world is this possible? Like, what's going on? And I go, oh, it's because my current version of my identity is maximized. And so maximize doesn't mean it's over, it's done. It just means that this is my current max. When I lift weights, I can work out. It's hard, but I can increase my max. I can get stronger and stronger and stronger. And so for me, when I hear overwhelm, people go, hands thrown up. I sit on the couch, like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Maximize, I go, cool, maximize, let's increase your max. If we can increase your max, then what you're dealing with now will feel like lightweight. Lightweight, baby.
Ronnie Coleman,
dog.
lightweight, baby.
And that's what it feels like. And only thing is, it's the hard work in the moments to make that work lighter later.
I've heard you say that word, and I've also heard you say, which also resonates with me, and this was early on, maybe a year plus ago. I've heard you say stretched.
Yeah.
I'm stretched. And like, I've resonated that too, because like in the gym, is just like you said, is a perfect example of that. Without resistance, and this goes into everything to becoming and living into that identity and practicing it and developing the habits. Like we need to stretch ourselves.
Have to.
And that little shift has been one of the more valuable like nuggets that I've really gotten from you, because that overwhelm, I was using that a lot. And just that switch, man, like I'm stepping into new levels just because, and it's incredible to me how just a simple change in one word and how we connect to that word and what it means to us and really feeling into it with our hearts, with everything can be a complete game changer in our life.
That's it. Yeah. It's all, I think that is the game, man.
Yeah.
The game is looking at the world and going, what do I want next? Because we all have a want next. And we don't got to rush. I just want this to go off hella loud. So I'm going to stop it. Whenever we keep going, it's fine.
Cool.
Because it'll go beep, 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 hella loud.
we're looking at a timer right here.
We have a timer, people. But the idea is like, it's saying, if I want that next thing, when I go to look at it, imagine being a kid that goes, I want that at the ticket counter at the arcades back in the day, even currently now. And I walk up, I go, I want that squirt gun up there. And I go, man, I've only got 100 tickets and it's 150 tickets. And I go, oh, can't get it. I get the thought, it's like if it's all you can get, there's no more. If you think there's no more games to be played, like you can never have it. And then it sucks. But I go, no, I want to get more tickets. How do you get more tickets? You go back, play the game. It's really what it was. So I try to find words that get me to be enjoying going back and playing the game, not going, I got to play this thing to go ahead and get tickets to get this squirt gun. No, what if you could play the game and enjoy the game? As an added benefit of the squirt gun, That's how it's supposed to be done at these arcade games. That most people go into these arcade games of life and they hate the game they're playing just to get the tickets to get this thing they get. And they go, it's a piece of crap from China that it's just in Chuck E. Cheese and, and not stupid. And I go, man, wouldn't it have been great to enjoy the game? Because think about it. You spent all that time over there doing that. What if you enjoyed this? And so the idea of like stretch and optimization and maximizing, it's like I'm trying to find ways to tell my brain like, hey, you have more work to do, but don't hate it all. Like find a way to go, okay, I'm stretched right now. All right, cool. Well, can I stretch further? Can I, be malleable? Can I handle? Can I expand what I call capacity? Because capacity is your ability to handle, right? And whether it's a physical capacity, I look at it kind of like power plugs. Like we have plugs we're using in our lives. And most of us have like a bunch of plugs. I have my health plug, my marriage relationship plug, my parenting plug, the business plug, the hobby plug, right? Friendship plug. All these plugs, they got to be powered on by us. And if you only have 2 outlets in your house, well, how are you going to power them all on without it freaking out eventually? Then something doesn't get the power. So the marriage doesn't get the power because you're working on business and kids. So your marriage doesn't have power for a while. Eventually that thing's done. craps out, right? Friendship, same way. Health, same way. So what most of us don't look at is that stretch, that maximization. It's expanding capacity. It's going, look, I got 2 plugs. Let me get a power strip. Let me make a power strip. Let me expand this to 3 plugs, 4 plugs, 5 plugs, to where eventually you don't just have, 6 plugs and 6 outlets. And I got 6 plugs and 20 outlets.
Wow.
Right. So I can look and go, you know what? I want to power on that next thing. I'm actually looking to get my pilot's license.
What?
100%.
Dude.
Right?
Yes.
Weird little things I do. So you're already talking about I do things, create things. And I'm like, I can fit a pilot's license in there. I got to stretch. And I do. And I find ways and move things around. And it fits.
You have to send me a picture after.
I got pictures.
Yeah. Oh, you do? You are?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, man. Well, one of the things on that note, like that I tend to see a lot is, well, by and large, we have a really just low vitality society. And so what I've really realized is my capacity and people's capacity to stretch themselves is directly tied to their level of health and vitality.
I'd agree.
It's like if you are not sleeping or not hydrating or in a toxic relationship, those are all things that drain your vital life force energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it's been like, I know that if what you were saying earlier, like if I'm not training regularly, doesn't mean I have to kill myself in the workout. Like now, honestly, most of my training is like proactive maintenance.
Yeah, I get it.
With the occasional
Kill yourself.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's like chop wood, carry water with the occasional quantum leap.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, put yourself in those big, what do they call them? Some of the C. I'll think of it later. Don't worry about it. Yeah,
But
crucible.
Crucible.
Crucibles, yeah.
But this is why I really believe like health is the foundation for high performance in any aspect of our life. And if we can focus on there, our basin of what we were able to hold and carry and build just continually grows. So, I would love to, this has been so awesome, by the way. I'm like,
yeah, been fun, man.
This has been so
good.
Cool. I would love, I would love for you to share, where people can find you, all that stuff. But I would love to kind of wrap up. If you were to share on just this last topic that we went, if you were to summarize and share one nugget of wisdom or one piece that you would say, whether it's someone stepping into that new identity and or someone tied to stretching themselves, what would you offer to that person to enter that?
So I would genuinely go into the same realm what you're talking about, right? There's this misconstrued perception, and I think we just grow up with it, that your brain is sitting there and your body is designed just to carry it around. So people think like, my body's just to carry my brain around so I can think and talk and eat and enjoy and join computers. Like, no, man, you want to realize your body actually can make your brain better. When you post-workout, we have this brain protein called brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It's the protein that kind of builds the synapses, they'll call it the highways, and it maintains them. And it also levels dopamine, serotonin. The reason I'm not eating your face right now, like it's the chemicals are balanced. And so I can be at ease and at peace when things go crazy. And I can also memorize, learn better post-workout than any other time because that protein's dumped out post-workout. And so most people don't realize if you really want to improve or optimize your brain to do the things you do in life, you should take care of your body. But it's also even deeper than that from like a brain level. There's something unique about the ability to be in that moment when you want to stop and you're by yourself and no one's there and you can stop, but you force yourself to go past, to finish the rep, to also give the full effort when you can give less and no one's going to judge you. And it's unique because it gives you that sense of pride when you're done, that no one's going to know about. I call it that dark work. No one's going to know about it, but I'm going to know about it. I'm going to feel great about me. So I can show up my day different. I have a different chip. I have a different pride, different confidence. But it informs me of what I'm capable of. And so whenever I leave the physical setting and I go to the mental setting and sit in a meeting or a call or a conversation, and I feel myself in that moment of difficulty, I know what I'm capable of. So I lean in. And so if you don't take care of your body or press your body or push your body when it comes to optimize, when it comes to stretch, when it comes to maximize, you will stop because you're not intimately connected to that emotion. You didn't put yourself into it. You didn't subject yourself to it enough in advance. So it seems overwhelming. It's much easier nowadays to find the kickoff, to find somebody who tells you shouldn't work like that. Like it's not always the joyous thing to talk about, but I'm not a big fan of like the body positivity solely for the purpose of somebody's feelings.
Correct.
Right. I get the idea that you should be body positive. You don't want to hate your skin, but we should be honest that the body is not designed to carry the weight that people are trying to put onto it to do the things we're doing. It's not designed for that. And I don't know a single person that's gotten in shape from that and gone, I hate this journey. I hate myself now. Every one of them. So we have to look at this aspect that not only do you like yourself more, you can accomplish more, achieve more. Like it's from a standpoint of mental, but it's also better because you can do more long term. If I take care of my body longer, I get to be around my kids longer. I get to impact lives longer. If I was to sit back and go, I'm going to do that, but I'm also going to eat whatever I want, never take care of myself, not work out. Well, I'm not going to be able to get up and walk around half the day. I'm going to be anxious and angry when I see them because my energy's crappy. I can't serve the level I want to. It's just, there's such an incongruent aspect there. And so if you want to maximize your ability, you want to stretch your life, you have to first stretch your mind by first stretching your body, I guess, in a way, right? Take care of your body, press the body, because that's an intimate moment that no one can create for you, no one can take from you. And when you can build into that and realize that you're taking the intangibles you learn from that moment into the rest of your life, you see all areas spike up. My success is tied to that. When I was out of shape, 100% life was not fun because everything is put to the filter of my body is uncomfortable. I don't like myself in the mirror or whatever it is. But the moment you start doing the workouts, even if you don't get into great shape right now, if you are overweight still, but you got a week of killer workouts in, I don't care what's going on. You're going to have that crazy you're going to feel good because you know what you did. And that's the thing. And you do enough of that, eventually you get the body that mirrors how you feel. Because I do like that whole concept of your external, right? Your body is a reflection of your internal. Mm-hmm. If I love me, I really love who I am. I'm taking care of who I am deeper than just my brain. I'm taking care of my body. And that I think other people I know, not everybody, because we have some weird knuckleheads, steroid pumping, meatheads that aren't too happy with themselves. But people that I know that are doing like functional stuff or doing triathlons or doing Spartan races or doing CrossFit, like they're joyous people, man. Mm. That's why those CrossFit communities are so dialed in because they're not in there making fun of each other and bagging on themselves. Like they love the work. They feel confident. I think that, and I'll end on this, I think that is the golden thing about CrossFit. It is hard. They make it hard. And the reason that they say everybody, the first rule of CrossFit is talk about CrossFit, When you think about anything you've done, if you get your pilot's license, like, or I get my pilot's license, or you win an award, or you have these kids, like you're proud of these things. Yeah. It's because of the work you put into them that was very difficult. That's why CrossFit people talk about CrossFit, because they're proud of the work they put into it and how difficult it was. Therefore, I talk about it. That same thing where it's physical can and should and does carry over into your mental, which then shows up in all other parts of your life.
Continually inspiring.
Yeah, man.
No, but that's the truth. And what I've really seen from you is your ability to, again, have clarity, but you are a very efficient human, at least how I experience you. Very efficient. And it's because, just like what you said, you've identified and are willing to go through the pains and the suffering, whatever it is, of those biggest boulders that will have a cascade of effects everywhere else. So I love what you shared. And we'll close off. Where can people find you? Where can they, drop it down?
All the fun stuff, man. If you go to textanthony.com and then just say hi, I have it's like a text community. I send messages out. Or you just go to Instagram, man, at Anthony Trucks. It's pretty straightforward. There's only one besides my oldest son, but you'll know the difference in face. He's like running on track and it's like my face up there.
Well, dude, thank you so much. I'm going to give you a big hug once we step up from here.
Yeah, man.
Thank you again so much. This has been so special. And you've been, if you didn't already know it, you've been a huge, huge inspiration for me.
Happy to hear, man.
And a coach, a mentor, a friend, you name it, like through osmosis and through your direct just coaching and everything you've offered. So from my heart, man, thank you so much.
I've received that, man. Appreciate it.
Peace, everyone.
Deuces.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow the podcast on Apple and leave a review. It means a lot. We all have a path, and I'd love to hear how this podcast has inspired you in some way to live yours.